The moment I unzipped her bag, my hands were already shaking. But what I found inside was nothing compared to what I did after. If you think you know how this story ends, trust me, you don't. Stay with me until the very last part, because this one gets darker than you expect. It started on an ordinary Tuesday night. My wife, Emma, had just walked in from her yoga class, gym bag over her shoulder, hair still damp. She seemed different that night, not tired, distant, like her mind was somewhere far away from our living room. I noticed it, but I told myself I was imagining things, just like I had told myself for weeks before that. While she was in the shower, her phone lit up on the kitchen counter. I did not touch it. I have never been the type to snoop through someone's phone. At least I did not used to be. Instead, I walked over to her bag, telling myself I was only looking for her phone charger. That is when my fingers touched something small and unopened, tucked into the side pocket, a pack of protection. Something we had not needed in years, not since we decided we were done having kids. My chest tightened instantly, like something had wrapped around it and pulled hard. For a few seconds, I stood there trying to convince myself there was some innocent explanation. Maybe it belonged to a friend. Maybe I was wrong. But somewhere underneath all that denial, I already knew the truth. Emma was cheating on me. I sat down on the edge of our bed, staring at that small, unopened pack, my own reflection barely visible in the plastic wrapping. 9 years of marriage, and this is what it had quietly become behind my back. Part of me wanted to storm into that bathroom right then and demand answers. Scream, break something, walk out the front door and never look back. But something else took over instead, something colder, something patient, and that something had a name. Revenge, I am still not sure exactly when that thought settled into my mind. Maybe it was the humiliation. Maybe it was 9 years of trust collapsing in a single second. But I knew, standing there in our bedroom, that I was not going to simply walk away without her knowing exactly what she had done. I placed everything back inside her bag, careful, precise, exactly where I had found it. My hands were steady by the time she came out of the shower. My heart was not. That night, I acted completely normal. I even made dinner while she talked about her yoga class, her instructor, her friends from the studio. Every single word out of her mouth sounded like a smooth, well-rehearsed lie. And I sat there, nodding along, saying nothing at all. 2 days later, she told me she had a late meeting at work. I nodded again, the same way I always did. But this time, I did not just believe her. This time, I followed her. What I saw outside that apartment building changed everything. I parked across the street, engine off, lights out, watching the front entrance of a small apartment building I had never seen before in my life. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly, my knuckles turned white. I told myself I was probably wrong. Maybe this really was a work meeting. Maybe I was about to feel like the biggest fool for doubting my own wife. Then I saw her. Emma stepped out of her car, wearing the same dress she had put on that morning for what she called a client dinner. She walked quickly toward the entrance, glancing over her shoulder once, almost like she already knew someone might be watching. A man stepped out to meet her, tall, confident, maybe in his early 30s, laughing at something before she even reached him, like the whole world already belonged to him. Then she kissed him, right there in the open, like I did not even exist anymore. Something inside me went completely silent in that moment, not loud, not explosive, just silent, like a light switching off somewhere deep in my chest. 9 years, and this stranger got a version of her smile I had not seen directed at me in longer than I wanted to admit. I did not get out of the car. I did not confront them. I just sat there, watching them disappear inside the building together, and then I drove away without any real destination in mind. I drove for hours that night, through empty streets, past closed stores, around the same block more times than I could count. My phone buzzed constantly on the passenger seat, her name flashing across the screen again and again. I let every single call go straight to voicemail. Around midnight, I finally answered. "Where are you?" Emma asked, her voice quick, almost frantic. "Out," I said flatly. "Why aren't you answering your phone?" "I've been calling for hours." I said nothing for a long moment. In the background, I could hear muffled voices, something that sounded like an argument, maybe even something crashing to the floor. "I need you," she whispered suddenly, her voice cracking. I almost laughed out loud right there in my car. "Do you?" I replied, my voice colder than I had ever heard it sound before. Silence stretched between us on the line, long enough that I thought she might have hung up. Then the call simply ended, without another word from either of us. When I finally drove home that night, long after midnight, Emma was already there, sitting on the edge of our bed, pale, shaken, unable to meet my eyes when I walked through the bedroom door. Her hands trembled slightly as she reached for a glass of water on the nightstand. For the first time in months, maybe longer, she actually looked guilty. Not performing guilt for my benefit. Real guilt sitting heavy behind her eyes. I stood in the doorway, watching her, saying absolutely nothing. Finally, after a long, uncomfortable silence, she looked up at me and whispered 4 words that changed everything between us. "I messed up, Noah! I messed up, Noah!" She whispered again, her voice barely audible. I stood in the doorway, arms crossed, watching the woman I had married slowly fall apart in front of me. For a moment, just one brief moment, I caught a glimpse of the person I had once fallen in love with. Scared, vulnerable, real, but it was already far too late for that version of her to matter anymore. "I know," I said quietly. Her eyes went wide, panic flashing across her face. You know?" I nodded slowly, walking further into the room, my footsteps deliberate and calm. "How long, Emma?" I asked. Tears filled her eyes almost instantly. "Long enough," she admitted, her voice cracking completely now. "How long?" I repeated, my voice firm, refusing to let her dodge the question again. She finally broke down completely, sobbing into her hands. 4 months. Maybe 5. I don't even know anymore. It happened, and then I couldn't stop it. 4 months. Nearly half a year of lies disguised as yoga classes and late work meetings. While I sat at home believing every single word, she tried explaining herself after that, tripping over her own sentences, saying things about feeling invisible, feeling unappreciated, feeling like our marriage had slowly become nothing but routine. I let her talk. I did not interrupt once, but none of it reached me anymore. It was like listening to someone speaking underwater, their words distorted, meaningless, far away. "Please," she finally said, reaching for my hand. "Tell me what I need to do to fix this. I'll do anything, Noah. I still love you." I looked down at her hand touching mine, and for the first time all night I felt something shift inside me. Not sadness, not anger even. Something colder, sharper, more controlled. "You want to fix this?" I asked quietly. She nodded desperately, hope flickering across her tear-streaked face. "Then stay exactly where you are," I said. "Don't call him. Don't warn him. Don't tell anyone what happened tonight. Not your sister. Not your friends. No one." Confusion crossed her face. "Why?" I did not answer that question directly. Instead, I simply said, "Because if you truly want to fix this, Emma, you are going to trust me completely, starting right now. No more secrets between us." "Not one." She agreed immediately, desperate enough to promise anything in that moment. What she did not realize was that I already had a plan forming in my mind, one I had been quietly building ever since I sat in my car outside that apartment building. Watching her kiss another man like our marriage meant absolutely nothing. Over the next several days, I stayed calm. I stayed patient. I smiled at the right moments, asked the right questions, played the role of the forgiving husband slowly working through his pain. But behind that calm exterior, I was watching everything. Her phone, her schedule, her every move. And 3 days later, I finally understood exactly who this man really was, and exactly what I was going to do about it. His name was Derek, a gym instructor who worked at the same yoga studio Emma had been attending for the past year. Confident, charming, exactly the type of man who thrives on making married women feel special again. At least until things get complicated. I did not confront him. I did not confront her either, not yet. Instead, I did something far more calculated. I let Emma keep believing we were slowly rebuilding our marriage. I sat through her apologies. I nodded through her promises. I even let her plan a quiet weekend trip, just the 2 of us, to reconnect, as she called it. What she did not know was that I had already spoken to a lawyer, quietly, privately. I had already gathered everything I needed, screenshots, receipts, even a few photographs from that night outside Derek's apartment. Every single piece of evidence I would ever need, all collected while she believed I was simply healing. 3 weeks after that night in our bedroom, I finally sat her down at our kitchen table. No yelling, no dramatic confrontation, just a folder placed calmly between us. She opened it with shaking hands. Her face went white as she flipped through page after page, screenshots of messages. A photo of that kiss outside the apartment building. A printed confirmation of a divorce filing already submitted to the court. "Noah, what is this?" she whispered, though she already knew exactly what it was. "This," I said calmly, "is me finally being honest with you, the same way you should have been honest with me months ago." She started crying immediately, begging, asking how I could do this after everything, after she had promised to change. after she had tried so hard to fix things between us. You didn't try to fix anything, Emma, I said quietly. You tried to make sure I never found out how far it actually went. There's a difference. She had no answer for that, because deep down, she knew I was right. I will admit there was a strange, hollow satisfaction in watching her world collapse the way mine had weeks earlier, but it did not feel like victory. It never does. Revenge does not repair broken trust. It does not erase the image of your wife kissing another man like you never existed. It only makes sure the other person feels a fraction of what you have been carrying silently alone for far too long. As I watched Emma break down completely at that kitchen table, I realized something even colder than any revenge I had planned. I did not love her anymore. Somewhere between that unopened pack in her bag and that kiss outside Derek's apartment, whatever we once had already quietly died. Sometimes the most painful part of betrayal is not the affair itself. It is realizing exactly how far someone was willing to go to keep you from ever finding out. If this story hit you somewhere deep, if you have ever discovered something that changed how you saw someone you trusted completely, I want to hear about it. Drop your story in the comments below, because someone else watching right now probably needs to hear it too. And if you enjoyed this story, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next one. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next story.